All right, hi, thank y'all for joining us. I cannot get this started. We're just going to roll with this. I apologize for the laughter. Vince is making me laugh. This is our Beef Brunch news update for Tuesday, September 14th, and we're already off to a great start here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Vince, if you can stop laughing for our update in Central and South Louisiana.
Oh, thank you. Well, at least we're laughing and not crying. But there are some things out there that can make us happy, and some that can make us sad. But the topic of discussion right now is ryegrass planting. We got a lot of producers getting some ground ready to plant ryegrass, and the question is, ryegrass prices, they're going to be high this year. Probably $8 to $12 a bag, depending on the variety that you choose and what's available. Because as we spoke before we got online here, that labor shortage is an issue. Some of these distributors are having to make ends meet by sending their crews across the country to get things loaded and moved out. So if you haven't secured your ryegrass intentions at this point in time, you might be in a situation faced with a shortage, because it's going to be tight this year and expensive. So also on fuel costs has gone up, like with all the fuel needs, and the plants haven't been shut down from the hurricane. A lot of the refineries down southeast of us that were affected by Hurricane Ida. Make sure that you make your plans to get your fuel in your tank for your tail end of your hay production and your ryegrass planting and moving into the winter, because it's a possibility that it may run short. Also, there's still some armyworm issues out there. Depends on where you're at. We've in the central part of the state and the southern part of the state, we've had some rains, not much associated with the Hurricane Ida, but the showers. Seems like where we get more repetitive showers, that the worms hadn't been as bad, but we do have some isolated spots of droughty conditions that they're still pressing on and reaping some havoc on some forages and some of our hay fields that are lush and green and growing, trying to make that some second cutting. We were fortunate the last days of July and the 1st of August to get that a big first cutting. It was big, rank, and a lot of quantity. Quality is questionable to a lot of hay, but we're going to have a short second cutting coming up here in about 5 to 6 weeks, hopefully. But we've had some 50-degree nights, even where at our location in central Louisiana, we were 59 degrees both Thursday night and Friday night. So that's really cool for September the 10th. So hay may be a shortage, but there's a bunch of it out there. But anyhow, price wise, the cattle market has softened. Obviously, the big spring run is hitting the local barns and the local markets. That has softened some. Haven't had an opportunity to sit in the barn, but I know some of the producers are complaining that they missed the high spot here about 2 weeks ago. So anxious to see our local market is tomorrow. I'm trying to take some time and go see what the calf sale does there. But that's about it. Just preparing for ryegrass season, ryegrass plantings, getting some cull cows, moving. A lot of people are culling cows ahead of the winter feeding periods. There's several feed companies that are putting on meetings this year, unlike we've had the last 2 years, regarding supplementation, what products are available and how much of it's going to be available. So it's a good idea to get your ducks in a row, and those of us as agents and you guys up in the northern part of the state, I'm sure you're faced with some of that same presentation from some of the feed companies. They getting aggressive on trying to get things done, and with higher commodity prices, and things are not cheaper than they were last year or the year before. They certainly not, but it's still a necessity to have some of these. There's several producers that have culled some herds down in a higher price situation going into a high winter cost feeding period. So it'd be interesting to see who and how they get back in, moving forward. So that's about all I have, and we're waiting on the rain of Tropical Storm Nicholas coming in tonight and tomorrow. We're still wet in areas, and this is just going to compound the situation from 6 to 10 inches of rain in areas. So it's definitely where it's dry. It's going to get some ground softened to get some ryegrass planted, but we will need cooler weather to get these armyworms back down and a decent front coming through. So we have a challenge ahead of us in the next 36 hours.
Thank you, sir. And since you mentioned winter supplementation, I'm going to go ahead and add this in there. We do have our webinar tomorrow, and that is what we're covering. Andrew's going to come in and talk about winter supplementation alternatives. So again, it's always live at 10:30 a.m. the second Tuesday of every month, and we will record that and get that posted for you as well. So I'll probably mention it again before we wrap up for today, but it's just kind of a good timely topic going on there. Lee, how does it look in the Northwest region?
Thank you, Ashley. Glad to be with y'all today. Weather has broke around here. I've kind of been a broken record the last couple of months talking about hot and humid. We did, as Vince alluded to, we got some of that cooler weather, cooler morning lows in the 50s, lower humidity. That's the main thing. Highs only reaching into the lower to mid 90s or high 80s, mid 80s to high 80s. Sure is nice. It sure makes you appreciate this weather when it finally rolls in the fall. Dry is the word around here, and you can argue a little bit. When I'm talking the Northwest region of part of the state, and you be visiting with one person and they'll tell you, oh, we've had plenty of rain just about every day. And then you may visit with their neighbor a couple miles down the road, and they may have missed out on some of those everyday rains. Generally speaking, folks is dry in this part of the world. And they sure could use the rain. While we certainly aren't looking forward to a tropical depression, I sure hope everybody down in southeast Texas and of course in southeast Louisiana stays safe on that. Hopefully it won't be much in the way of flooding or wind damage or anything like that. The moisture, if we get some moisture out of it up this way, it'll be welcome from a cattle producer standpoint. Hay there's still haying going on, but it's pretty well ground to a halt. Folks just cleaning up what is there. There have been some good hay made in the last week or two, I'd say. I've talked to some producers and seen some samples on some hay that has been just top notch. So it is, haying is still going on, but it is drawing to a close. Visiting with a producer that sells a bunch of hay recently, and they have been inundated with requests to purchase hay in the last week or two. And I guess it's that kind of same thing we see every year when it comes to buying and selling hay. Nobody really thinks about it until the fall of the year and they get the first cool snap and think, oh my goodness, I need X amount of hay to carry my horses or cattle through the winter. And so this person just said that the demand was tremendous out there for small squares and for round bales. So if you hadn't got your hay committed for, I'd highly suggest that you call your contact, call your producer, your hay person, and get them to get you on the books, because the hay that's out there, we're nearing the end on this deal. What I'm getting at without rambling too much. There's some cattle being worked. It's a good thing that the camera only covers from right here up, because from here down, I'm covered in political promises. And we've been working cattle here at the Hill Farm, trying to get ahead on some stuff as far as that. And I know there's lots of cattle being pregnancy tested, trying to make some culling decisions. Like Vince said, this market's just kind of stalled out. And as Jason will probably talk about this just stagnation in these fat cattle prices. My goodness. It's dragging the futures and of course the feeder cattle prices down with it. But slowed down a little bit on some of these calf sales, but these killing cow prices still halfway decent. You still see some folks pregnancy testing these cows, and they got some of these older cows, and we've been talking about cost to maintain and carry a cow through the winter and supplement. You got an older open cow, car's just stacked against her. It may be time for her to take a trip there. And anyway, I'll wind up on this note. We do have quite a bit of talk coming out of Washington, D.C. still, revolving around perceived, real or imaginary perceived imbalances in the meat packing industry. And there was a lot of talk last week from the Biden administration on trying to level the playing field, and they actually called out the meat packing sector for some of the perceived inflation, some of the inflation that we're receiving on the consumer side with food and such. So, we've been talking about this off and on about political pressures related to the cattle industry and fixing these cattle markets. And it's still on the burner. We still got a lot of people talking about it. If you want more information, reach out to one of us about it. We'll put you on some good sources of some information and get you clued in as to what the discussion is. With that, Ashley, I'll quit rambling and turn it back over to you.
Ashley, I want to add something. We've been talking about hay and cost of production, cost of fuel increase. We can't forget about the fertilizer cost increase. A complete analysis fertilizer is well over $600 a ton right now. Most of our nitrogen-based products are well over $600 a ton. Producers need to figure out what their cost of production is and the cost involved with putting this hay up. You have $4 to $5 per roll of either net wrap or string on it. I know from a producer standpoint, which I am, I have $120 an acre in fertilizer right now on 2 cuttings. So they need to be cognizant of what things are costing, because it gets to be competitive of who can sell the most 4x5 round bales out there. A lot of people don't want to fool with a 5 wide bale because of the transportation issues. But as we've covered this in the beginner cattleman program and other extension programs that we put on, people need to know what's cost and money wise about their hay purchases, and producers who are selling hay that are fertilizing hay, they need to get their most bang out of their buck, because they leaving money on the table if they're selling a large round bale of hay for anything under $45 a roll. So they need to be cautious and be aware of their cost and their inputs involved. That's all I'll have to add.
Thank you. And I'm going to throw something in too before I turn it over to Jason. So Lee mentioned pregnancy determination, and if you don't do that, we strongly recommend that that's something that you add into your herd, because as Lee mentioned, cost of production for a cow it's going up for all the reasons that we've already mentioned. And if you don't get a calf off of her, then she's costing you money. And there's a new pregnancy determination blood test that's out. It's a chute side test, so it's actually something that you can run there while your cows are pulled up, which is nice. You don't, the vet doesn't have to be there necessarily. If you know how to pull blood, you're able to run this test on your own. The downside is they sell it in a kit, and the kit is for basically a large volume. So up to 180 samples is what you can run. And if you're maximizing it, if you're using anywhere from about 140 to 180 samples, you're looking at about $2.25 to $3 per head on that. But of course, if you have small herd, less animals, then you're going to have an increased cost per animal on this kit. So I have a little bit of information on it in Jason's Pasture to Market newsletter, which is online, and I'll link that for y'all in the video and podcast descriptions. The other nice thing about this blood test compared to previous ones or current ones that we already had out that you have to mail off to a commercial lab is you can go ahead and test these as early as 28 days post breeding, and there's no interference of calving on that. So with the previous tests, like the bioprint test and some of the other assays that you were milling off, they had to be more than 60 days post calving on this, or on those old ones. On this new one, you can go 28 days post calving and you can go ahead and test them. So it allows you to get them tested a little bit earlier. But again, there's more information in that on Jason's newsletter, and we'll link that in your podcast and video descriptions. So Jason, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the Northeast update as well as our markets.
Thank you, ma'am. Was over towards Winsboro and Crowville and Rayville earlier this morning, and most of the guys over there who've been cutting corn have been kind of happy about this dry weather. They hadn't been fussing about it too much, as like Lee said, it has been dry. We're kind of looking forward to a little bit of this moisture that we got predicted this week. And I don't know what it looks like down in Vince's part of the world, but a lot of the beans have had defoliant sprayed on them, and they're wilting them down. And I feel for those guys looking at the amount of rain that's coming in, and what that potentially will do to that soybean crop. So we definitely want to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers. On the pasture side, and the Bermuda grasses are slowing down. All of our warm season perennials are slowing down. As Lee alluded to, those 50-degree nights, and it's going to slow them down. Which, I mean, it is September. I mean, it's that time of year to where we're going to start dipping into some cooler nights, and that warm season grass is going to start slowing down, and that's why we start talking about planting cool season annuals around September the 15th, because those warm season grasses are slowing down. They're not going to provide a whole lot of competition of those cool season annuals when we get them in the ground. And I encourage all of you to reach out to us if we can help you in any way in terms of some decision making. There's a lot of things that we've talked about on our Beef Brunch series. There's a lot of things that we talk about here on our news update in terms of ways that you can increase profitability, and some of those are just little things that you can do along the way. And like everybody's talked about in terms of culling decisions, it may be, like Lee said, it may be time for some of them to go to town. And you need to really think about what your cost of production is going to be, or what it's going to cost you to maintain that cow or keep that cow in your place this winter. And there's a lot of things that we talk about through the Ag Center and through extension work that some people think are just not, there's not much legitimacy to them. But whenever we get where we are today in terms of cost of inputs and cost of production, it's those kind of things that we think they're important on the extension side, but on the actual production side, some of those things may fall on deaf ears. But I think in the environment and the situation that we're in now, and folks are going to have to pay attention to those, because we are definitely looking at some lower calf prices. And I read a report today, Vince, that like 60% of Gulf production is still shut down right now. Natural gas prices are up like 30%. And Vince talked about fertilizer prices. Natural gas is a major component of fertilizer production. So I don't, and God forbid, I hope we have, but I don't know that we've seen the top of these fertilizer prices if we continue to see some of these things happening. But I'll get off that soapbox, move into the market. So weekly slaughter finished at 577,000 head, which is down 7.5% from the prior week. Choice box beef cutout values finally started falling, and it's I guess we finally got past Labor Day, so demand is weakening a little bit. So I say falling kind of tongue in cheek. They did close the week at $332.46 a hundred. So that's almost 50% higher than where we were this time last year. So yeah, they did fall. Are the Packers still making a good bit of money? Yes. And Lee is always talking about educating yourselves. And one of the things that has been in kind of the forefront this week is drop value. So the drop value is what that processor is receiving for the hide, the offal, all of that kind of all of those kind of products. They call it, that's all lumped into drop value. That drop value now is 90.4% higher than it was this time last year. And so that's kind of like clear and free money that those Packers are taking. So, and as Lee says, educate yourselves. The choice select spread moved $4 higher than the previous week. So it closed the week at $34.99 a hundred, and that's 20% higher than it was last year. And consumers, grocers, restaurants, everybody's seeking lower prices. This on again, off again has really been hard on our restaurant industry. They open up, they close up, they open up. That's hard on labor force. It's hard to keep consistent labor. So all of these folks that are buying our product, our beef, they are certainly wanting some lower prices and some consistency. Light volumes of cash trade occurred in the south on our fat cattle, and were mostly steady at 124. In the north, the bulk of the sales were 124 to 127, which is about steady to $2 softer than the prior week. In the 5-area feeding region, fed steer negotiated cash sales ranged from 121 to 127, which is off about $1 to $4 from the previous week. And that was on a confirmed 71,507 head. Futures on those live cattle ended the week with October down 32 cents at 123.42, December down 57 cents at 128.22, and February down 87 cents at 132.02. 5 to 600 pound steers, medium and large 1s and 2s, sold from 146 to 148. We really don't have a good market to compare that to the prior week. The Labor Day kind of had the markets messed up a little bit. But I can tell you, if you go back to our last consistent market, that's like 20 cents off. So what Vince took off of that market high. So if you go back to what Vince was saying, that 2 weeks, we're about 20 cents less on those calves than what we were this past week. 700 to 800 pound feeder steers, medium and large 1s and 2s, so 132 to 153. Futures ended the week sharply lower than the open, with September trading down $1.50 at 154.25, October down $1.52 at 157.72, and November at 159.12. As I think Lee alluded to, lean cull cows are still averaging about 57. So if you got some of those high yielding cows, they were up around 63, 64. But that average about 57 cents. And that's about $1 lower compared to the last consistent market. Before I get into the feedstuffs, I do want to mention the Grand Island, Nebraska JBS fire. Ashley had asked me if I was going to mention that. So the reports that we have right now is that fire was confined to the rendering operations of the plant. It did not affect the harvesting or the fabrication operations of the plant. So the last statement I saw that came out from JBS, it was reported through Meeting Place, is that they would be back to operations tomorrow. So they halted operations for today, but they would be back to operations tomorrow. Looking at our feedstuffs, soybean meal is down $7.45 a ton at $367.30. Soybean hulls are steady at $160. Rice bran steady at $140. Cottonseed meal is up $10 a ton at $310. Whole cottonseed is steady at $350. Corn gluten feed meal is steady at $600. DDGs are up $2.50 at $202.50. And current corn, this is not December corn, but our current corn right now is down 53 cents a bushel at $4.63 a bushel. And that's all I've got, Ashley.
All right, thank you. I know there's probably quite a few producers that took a short breath when they saw the fire come out in the news. I know I was a little worried there for a second if they weren't up and going, that it was going to be a repeat of what we saw with the markets with the Holcomb fire in 2019, and that was going to be even worse given our current markets. But thankfully, like Jason said, they're going to be up and running hopefully tomorrow. We have quite a few events going on this week, and so I'm going to try to do these in order. And the first one, again, is tomorrow, our live webinar. It's going to be winter supplementation alternatives. It's at 10:30. We'll record that. I will get it on YouTube hopefully by next Monday. And so if you can't join us live, then you can watch that recording. All that information is on lsuagcenter.com/beefbrunch, which I always link here. That's tomorrow, Tuesday, then, or I guess today, I'm sorry, when this goes out. We pre-record these, so I'm messing it up. But Tuesday, September 14th, when this comes out, that's our webinar at 10:30 a.m. Then Thursday, so this is the 16th, that is our Northeast Louisiana Beef and Forage Field Day. So that is at the Goldmine Plantation in Mangum. We have that information on our website as well. If you go to lsuagcenter.com, go under livestock, under beef cattle, you can scroll down and you can get all the information for our field days. There will be a little link there. So you can get that information there. We have herd health, effects of cow disposition, soil fertility, and then matching cow nutritional needs with hay and supplements there. I know Jason was picking up some door prizes today on his way back to
Yeah, so I'll just add one thing, Ashley. So I've had a couple of folks asking, because it does look like we may still be getting a little bit of rain on Thursday. We're not changing anything. It may be a little bit of change in just how we move around, but the good thing about Goldmine is we've got ample good parking, and we got a lot of shed space. So even if it is inclement weather, we will still be there at Goldmine. There will be no changes if it rains, so we'll be on go. And yet we've got some good door prizes. Marion State Bank came through. We got some pretty good cash prizes for our Guess the Bellway contest. So we appreciate them stepping up on that. Louisiana Land Bank's going to be sponsoring our meal for us, so we'll have some Dankin Trail barbecue. So everybody come out. We're looking forward to a good morning.
Thank you. Then Saturday is the Southwest Louisiana Beef Cattle Field Day. So that's Saturday, September 18th. It's going to start at 9 a.m. It's at Kinder Livestock Auction. Presentations are going to include nutrition, herd health, tractor implements, weeds and forages, farm inputs, and a pig brig demonstration. So again, that's this Saturday, September 18th at Kinder Livestock Auction starting at 9 a.m. I don't know anything about weather concerns or anything there. I'm guessing they're going to go. Vince, do you know if they will proceed?
As of now, it is a go. I mean, the weather should be beyond us at that point.
Thank you. And then I think that's it for our events coming on this week and next. 2 programs that we do have. I know I've mentioned that registration is open for the Advanced Master Cattlemen. I'm trying to find my flyer for that. So if you have taken our Master Cattleman course before, that is a prerequisite, but you can go on and take our Advanced Master Cattleman. Dr. Scaglia coordinates this. And so we have information again online. If you look under producer programs, there's a link to that. But registration is open for it. We have to limit that to 50 participants. So you want to go ahead and register early for it. There's a $200 registration fee, and there are, I believe, 4 or 5 classes total for that. But all that information will be online. And then the last event, oh, go ahead, Vince.
I just wanted to mention that we do currently have Master Cattleman registration open in the Central Region. That program will take place in New Roads, and we'll begin. The first class will be on October the 2nd. We'll run 2 classes in October, 2 in November, 2 in December, 2 in January, none in February due to conflicts with livestock shows and other events going on, 2 in March to wrap up ahead of our spring field day at Dean Lee.
Thank you. Jason, is yours open yet? No? Lee, did you want to touch on the pregnancy determination clinic?
Yeah, just real briefly, new program that we have up this way is our cattle pregnancy determination clinic. We have that here at the Hill Farm Research Station, and basically it's a one-day clinic that seeks to educate producers about pregnancy management strategies, ways to determine pregnancy in your herd. So we teach all about blood testing. We do teach on ultrasounding, as well as we do teach on live cattle rectal palpation. And this clinic is taught not only by us as far as Ag Center folks, but also we have 2 veterinarians that do a lot of the instruction, especially on the palpation side. So really good program. If you're interested, there's space is extremely limited. We fill up every time, and just get in touch with one of us as soon as possible and try to get a spot reserved.
Thank you. And we've had 2 people today I know that have called about the pregnancy determination clinic, and I've had 1 or 2 message on social media or wherever in the past week since we've advertised this. We do only have this at the Hill Farm, so there's no other research stations that we currently host this at, and that just largely has to do because we have to have a separate herd that we manage specifically for this to make sure we have pregnancy statuses in all 3 trimesters. And so it just gets to be, I guess, a little bit of a special management coming in there for that. So it is only at the Hill Farm and not at any of the other research stations this year. So if you're interested in it, it might be a hike up here if you're in South Louisiana, but come join us, come visit us up north, and that's where we're having it at. So I think that that's all of the events that we have going on in the upcoming weeks. I'm excited because it's quite a bit, but at least we get to see y'all in person, and everything's not 100% virtual like it was this time last year. So we will be back with y'all in 2 weeks for our next news update.